This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. As we've kind of had a couple of key pieces of the offseason already falling into place for us, right? The not battle for the management chair, the general manager's job, but more so the discussion about what might happen there over the course of the summer. We know now that Ken Holland's likely to stay. Secondarily, Yamamoto and Ceci are the most likely trade targets to be off the roster before training camp for the Edmonton Oilers. I doubt we have another Yes Puljujärvi situation, but with Yamamoto, you possibly could. And then secondarily to that, all of this hangs in the balance because of one man, Evan Bouchard, who we're looking for that next contract for. And what happens next for him is going to kind of dictate our entire summer. That's kind of what we've boiled it all down to. Ooh. Oh, my. Bless me. Sorry. We'll do it live. All right. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, I guess right now what I should do is get this out of the way. If you're new to the channel, I need you to consider hitting that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV. Would be glad to have you aboard for more Edmonton Oilers discussion all off-season long going into the new season. But what we need to know is Evan Bouchard. Why are we talking about him? Well, as we've known for a little while, he's due up for a new contract this year. His entry-level deal kind of slid for 2 seasons, and now all of a sudden here it is, ready to rock and roll for that bridge deal, that next deal, whatever you want to call it. Bouchard, who is right now 23 years old and will be 24 by the time roughly the new season starts and is a couple of weeks old, he needs a new deal. And obviously, too, he's kind of one of those guys that, well, you see here, he's got 184 games of NHL experience. He's got 23 goals, 66 assists, and 89 points in the regular season, and is almost through 30 games in the NHL playoffs, a point per game player thanks to this past year's playoffs. So that's kind of the hardest part I think I've seen is the discussion about Evan Bouchard is, I think everybody says, oh, it's probably $4.5 million for Evan Bouchard, which eats up half our cap space we have available for this offseason. Hence why Yamamoto and Ceci are so likely to be traded, just to maybe upgrade on those players. But what we're talking about here is a guy that I think a lot of people get mistaken, right? Everyone says, well, he's a rookie. He's a rookie. Why are you going to pay a rookie $4.5 million? Well, simply put, you were paying Tyson Barrie to do the same job, and I think we all take Evan Bouchard over Tyson Barrie now that we've seen what he did in the playoffs. But the tough part here is he's not a rookie. He's a guy that has 189 games of experience, so you're talking about just about 2.5 seasons worth of experience. I guess 184 games, sorry. So he's a guy who each of the past 2 years has played full years and then has 2 little bits and pieces of seasons in years past. But for Evan Bouchard, the biggest part of how this all plays out for us right now is no matter what the number, no matter what the term, is it dictates everything that happens for the Oilers in the rest of the offseason. So when this is to be said, the most pressing thing that the Oilers have to take care of, right, I led off by saying Ceci Yamamoto and Ken Holland's job. Those are not the most pressing things. The most pressing thing is getting that Evan Bouchard deal right and figuring it out. For a guy that had back-to-back 40-point seasons on the back end for the Edmonton Oilers, that's the biggest part here, is you're talking about a guy who's been productive, a guy that does deserve the money for the Oilers, right? It's not Darnell Nurse's big contract where he had one career year and he gets paid $9 million. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who is almost a 1.5 per game in the playoffs this year. We're talking about a guy who's put up 40 points back-to-back years, and we're talking about a guy who's still on the rise. And the big thing I think everybody would also detract on Evan Bouchard is his defense, right? Clearly he needs help there and he needs to get better at that. Whether it be because of Matthias Ekholm, he's getting better, or whether it be we need somebody in there like Dave Manson to work with him all summer and kind of say, here's what you need to clean up, and away you go. it's really not a huge issue for the offensive production he brings. Like I guess everything would kind of equal out in the middle. But with Evan Bouchard, especially too, if you're going to pay him half your available cap this summer, and you're going to say, hey, we need better defense and goaltending, you're going to need him to bring an increased level of defense, an increased level of ability on the back end, and while also not sacrificing the offensive ability, right? And I think it kind of works part and parcel. If Bouchard gets stronger on guys in the D zone, gets a little bit bigger, bulkier on the blue line, I think that only helps him further crush pucks on net, further distribute up the ice, and further get up the ice quicker. So for Evan Bouchard, right, as much as he dictates everything here, he doesn't hold as much power as you might think, which is the nice part. Obviously, we'll qualify him as an RFA if we don't have him signed by then, and then we'll go from there. But right now, as it sits, unless somebody makes a crazy run at Evan Bouchard, the Oilers will sign him for that $4.5 million range, maybe as low as $3.5 million if we get lucky and Ken Holland really knows what he's doing with the negotiation tactics. And away you go, right? This is probably going to be another Darnell Nurse Bridge situation, which is fine because if the salary cap does indeed also go up by $3 or $4 million this summer, and then 3 or 4 the next year, and then 2 or 3 the year after, by the time Evan Bouchard's due for that next contract, he can make $9 million if he keeps progressing the way he is, and it doesn't nearly affect us as bad as maybe Darnell Nurse does currently versus how Evan Bouchard would then. But as it comes down to it, really just to kind of summarize all my thoughts here, I've thrown a lot at you, kind of all the variables I can think of, is it's a deal that needs to happen. And I don't think $4.5 million at max is going to sink you if you're the Edmonton Oilers. And two, right, is even if you end up going out there and upgrading on Cody Ceci, there's always going to be a way to fit all these players under the cap, especially now that we've gotten the LTIR money off the books. And you think to what Patrick was mentioning there on his video yesterday about Connor Brown, right? Guys like that you can kind of sign in for real cheap and get performance bonuses out, right? You punt Yamamoto to the curb for a prospect kind of similar to do what you did with Jesse Puljujärvi, as I mentioned in an earlier video, and you shove a guy like Connor Brown in there that's $750K plus performance bonuses, you're done and dusted. You are easily getting a savings right there, right? You're talking about saving just about $2.25 million, and right then all of a sudden $2.25 million, that pays that extra maybe million that people don't want to pay Bouchard, and now you have 250 left over, and that's how you upgrade on CC to a guy that's worth 3.5, right? The math is there, and that's what I think is really the most beautiful part for everybody that sat here for the past 2 years and said, man, wait until the offseason of 23, wait until the offseason of 23. Ken Holland will have all the flexibility in the world. Yes, the biggest concern is signing Evan Bouchard, but what we're able to do after that is not limited by what we do with Bouchard because of all the other variables, right? Yeah, I don't want $3 million of extra cap space due to it increasing. You have now, right, technically you save maybe $2 million on trading Yamamoto. Okay, cool, you've got $5 million there. You sign Bouchard, well, all of a sudden you've got maybe only $10 million remaining out of that, somehow created $14 million of cap space, and Bouchard has earned it. That's the biggest thing. I don't care what you think about his defense. I don't care what you think about his age and his ability. It's just simply put, he has earned it by having 2 40-point seasons on the Oilers' blue line. I'm not talking about a 4.5 by 8. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a 4.5 by 3, 4.5 by 2. Get us to a couple more cap increases, and then really let's make a decision on Evan Bouchard. But right now, a guy that I have liked from day one because of that shot, right? That shot is everything you could ever wish for as an Edmonton Oilers fan on the blue line. And realistically, let's just keep seeing it because it was dang successful in those playoffs, let me tell you. Friends, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I am up on out of here.